Okay, hello. Queen Cat here. I am posting a YouTube video because really, like I told y'all before, last year, a year before last, whenever I last recorded a video, I don't have a whole lot of friends, and sometimes I don't really get a lot of feedback on Facebook and Instagram, this, that, and the other. So I'm just, making an attempt to generate conversation here. And, right now, a lot of conversations need to be had. And I'm gonna go ahead and discuss this R. Kelly thing because I'm seeing a lot of missed points and missed details about this whole situation because it's, of course, way bigger than R. Kelly, the artist, than the famous person, you know. And aside from the girls that have come out and said anything, I can only imagine how many girls have not said anything and have some things to say. But it's not even about R. Kelly. It's about why now? And I'm not saying that to victim shame. And that question is not directed to the victims. That question is directed to like Lifetime and all these executive producers who put this video, this documentary together and released it so dramatically the way that they did. Why now? Like going into 2019, why not in 2009? Why not in 2001? Why not, you know, when the girl in the video, when she became legal, why not then, like 18? And what I really believe is that, the powers that be are just conducting another one of their big social experiments in our community. Okay. And I think that they are just sitting back and assessing all of our responses and the general tones of both sides of the argument. And once they assess that, then they'll know how they can further move along with their agenda to continue to desensitize us and continue to manipulate and control and abuse us behind the scenes. I think the same thing's happening with the Me Too movement. They made an example out of a few people, but do I think that the behavior is going to change behind the scenes, even if they change the consequences by law? People become victims and get themselves into situations they can't get out of because the number one tool that a predator or a manipulator is going to use is fear. Once they've gotten close to you, they've learned enough about you, uh, have learned your personality, what makes you tick, what excites you, what you look forward to, what your dreams and your goals are, what your aspirations are, things like that. And can they start to manipulate you and control you by using your fears. And that's why it takes some women so long. When people say why now and address it to the victims, the answer is if you're in a relationship with a guy who beats you up and holds blades to your neck and tells you that he'll you know kill your grandmother, kill your children, he lets you go and he says, bitch, don't scream. You're not going to scream. You're going to walk off down the street. You're going to get into your car. You're going to check your rear views. You're going to be very nervous. You're going to be very paranoid. I was in a situation when I was 18 all the way up till 23 in a domestic violence situation. And of course, that's straight out of high school. My freshman year in college, I got tied up with someone who was not in school and could not even make half of what I make on my test scores. And that individual was able to manipulate and control me, my mind, my strong brain. I thought I was so smart. I when I got out of the relationship at age 23, it wasn't until age 25 or 26 that I realized I didn't have to be afraid. Like at 24, I would walk down the street and I would like try to jot down the street quickly so that the cars passing by, like hopefully he wouldn't pull up on me. I was still afraid, even though I was free and away from him. I was still afraid for like a good year and a half or something like that. So I understand it, and it took for me to consciously coach myself because I didn't have therapy, and I had friends, a little friends and a little family, but like I had to coach myself out of psychologically being manipulated. Even though I had physically gotten away from this guy, my mind was still, my thoughts were still kind of bound by the fears of him. And it's like, girl, I told myself, it's like, when you met him, you was still kind of like a tomboy. You used to get out there and slap box with boys, and you used to whoop ass. When I was getting beat up in my relationship, I was so afraid that I wasn't even fighting back. I would just ball up and just try to protect my face. I wasn't even fighting back. I didn't even realize that in the few times that I did fight back in my relationship, it was usually because I was protecting my children, or maybe I was pregnant and I had to fight to defend this life I'm carrying, you know. And those handful of times that I fought back, it wasn't no big guy. He was small. I was taller than him. Not saying that I could whoop any man's ass, but I can make you feel me. You know what I'm saying? And I made him feel me on a couple of occasions. And I was like, it was not until I got out of the situation and was able to look back and say, dang, I let somebody dumb control my brain. What does that make me? I can't be that dumb. I can't be that slow. You know what I'm saying? And it's a difference between book smarts and street smarts, or common sense and book sense, And obviously I didn't have those two balanced out. And when I walked out of that relationship I was finally broken by the passing of my son. We had two children together, a girl and a little baby boy, and my little baby boy passed away. And I was just so numb, so null and void that it didn't matter if I was here or over here. The fear that I have for you just really don't even outweigh the pain that I'm feeling with my kid right now. Like, I just didn't care at that point. I was able to I had family that came and got me away from him. And in the motion of taking me back home, he was calling their phones, my grandma's phone. I don't even know how he had my grandma's phone number. But as we're riding back home, the day that I left, he was she put him on speakerphone in front of my mother and we were all able to hear him saying, "You can have her. Just give me the key to the mailbox. I can get my son a check. After that, you can have her." And I was just like, wow, you know. And that was it, but even when I would try to leave the house and go around the corner, I still have this fear. So, I understand about the victims taking so long to finally, muster up the strength and remember all the details, because it's so traumatic and the days just merge together and time just flies by when you're in an abusive relationship, and it's like you wasted so much time and endured so much. Anyway, yeah, it's hard to even remember everything when you've been traumatized. So I can't even imagine what it's like coming up out of his compound. But let's get back to him. That's enough about me. So we saw them expose, Bill Cosby, and initially, even though I have been a victim to sexual assaults and things of that nature, my first response was like, oh no, Bill didn't do that. I took sympathy with the abuser. And it wasn't until I saw actual footage of him saying, it wasn't until I saw actual footage of him joking about putting things in drinks and, talking about it casually, till I was like, oh. And even still, the girl that was supposed to be his, little assistant with the curly hair, and she kept coming back, but I took side with the abuser at first. My first response was, well, why did you work with him so much? You speak so highly of him. He was such a trusted mentor that you looked up to so much. He probably thought you wanted it. I can't believe that I would say that, but that's how I was feeling until I heard the details of it not being a consensual motion, of her laying there unable to use her arms and unable to use her legs. And that is when it dawned on me that that man could possibly be very, very sick. Like not sick, but like that's a perversion. If you want to engage in a relationship, even if a woman is willing, or if you don't even take the time to see if a woman will or will not consent, you're just going to put something in her drink and have your way with something that's kind of lifeless, just limp. That's not normal. That's not right. And if that happened to those women, and if you got away with it once or twice, you did that throughout the 80s. You did that throughout the 90s. Like, bro, I can't sympathize with that in no way, shape, form, or fashion. And I'm really disappointed at myself for being, I was deceived. We've been deceived. It's hard to accept. It's a hard pill to swallow, you know. Somebody you actually really admired. Like if Bill Cosby was your grandfather, when you come over for the holidays, you sit your kids on his lap and let them take a picture. You know what I'm saying? Like you would let your 12-year-old daughter ride the bus and get off at Papa's house after school and wait for you till you get off your job. And then to find out that this guy has been like this is like deceptive. And it hurts. And I think as a culture, we would rather tune it out. Now, we haven't heard anything about Bill Cosby in a while. And now that we've, you know, assessed the responses of everything our Black American dad has done, let's see what the Black American baby maker, how do y'all respond to that? It's like offenses within the family, within the culture, man. And we don't wanna believe it, but here we are. And if you think that's the last of it, they just cracking Pandora's box. Because I didn't want to respond to part one of the documentary because out of respect for Aaliyah. That's another thing. As a teenager who had her own bout with depression, self-consciousness, and things of that nature, I looked up to that girl. I loved her. Aaliyah, that was the only celebrity that I was kind of like idolizing up until Beyonce. Like nobody could even fill Aaliyah's shoes up until, and Destiny's Child was already out. So I didn't even have to accept Beyonce. Beyonce was there. Like, anyway, to know that somebody that I was depressed about my life, and then I was so admirable toward her, and her death really did crush me. I boo-hooed. I had just made this fresh wallpaper on my computer of a Aaliyah collage. When the news broke, that's what I was doing. Like some annoying little boy called me on the phone and he was like, Aaliyah died in a plane crash. I was like, bitch, don't call my phone. Don't play with me like that. Don't even play like that, bitch. And I hung up the phone. And he called me right back. He was like, no, I'm serious. Cut on MTV. And it was just a banner going across. The plane was there and everything. And oh my God, it was like, child, please. It was terrible. Yeah, that catapult thrusted me further into the rabbit hole of depression right there. I think I forgot. Yeah, it was bad. But I'm idolizing that girl, and the whole time she was a victim of pedophilia and molestation, and you know, I don't know if she was afraid to tell her family. I'm not sure if her family was aware of it. But after part one of that documentary, I decided I didn't even want to touch it out of respect for her, because it just is really hard to be Aaliyah's mom right now. Okay. Not only have you buried your child, but not and worked so hard to keep her name and her image so spotless. And then these types of things come out. Maybe she didn't even know, and that's a hard pill to swallow, and you probably don't even want to hear that. And then further allegations come out that make it seem like you were in with it, and in a sick, perverted way, like engaging in it. If that's not true, that is so wrong to put that woman through that, Miss Harton. That is so wrong to put her through that. And in the same sentence, I'm gonna say, if there's any truth to it, is this Aaliyah's way of having, is this our way of finally having justice, or having Aaliyah's voice being heard? It's hard to accept. It's too deep, and you instantly just want to shut it off and shut down and leave it alone. Whew. But anyway, I guess it's the conversations that we need to be having. We need to stop running from it, bro, because this crazy. And now they talking about Dame Dash came out, and that's another reason why I waited, because I wanted to see who else was gonna say something. And then Dame Dash says that Jay-Z was down with him, and he wanted Aaliyah right after R. Kelly, and we know that after Aaliyah, apparently he was on to Beyonce, who might have been 16, 17 at the time. And I am from the Beehive. I'm from Houston. I love my girl B. But I'm not gonna turn a blind eye to you, Jay, because you ain't been so nice to her throughout the marriage. You better treat her right, but she exposed your ass. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it. It's just one huge social experiment to see what we think about pedophilia and molestation within our families and within our community. Will we defend the offensive, or will we, find justice for our people? And that's the biggest thing, is like, in the midst of our parents going out buying that tape with him peeing on that girl back in the 90s, like, we missed the fact that he conned everybody into engaging in pedophilia right along with him. Whether you saw it, whether you just heard about it and laughed at it, like, he was still able to release Feeling on Your Booty and all that music later on down the line. So we are just now getting to the point to where we're going to halt his music. And who started that initiative? Did somebody not attempt to do it back in the day? Like, it's sick. And then he and R. Kelly. Then I saw that footage of him in Africa talking about, do you have your papers? Do you have your shots? Want to come back to America with Rob? Baby, there's the sex trade. Don't do it. Don't do it.